The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. Today I'll be joined by Lyons. He's the creator of the SweepEase aerodynamic pool brush. We're going to go over some of the finer points of this particular pool brush. So stay tuned to learn all about the SweepEase Stingray pool brush. Leslie's Pool Supplies is a proud partner of the Pool Guy Podcast Show. Leslie's Pool Supplies has been do-it-yourselfers and pool trade professionals' trusted partner since 1963, providing quality products and services to make pool care easy and solutions and expertise to do it right. I'm joined today by Lyons, and he is the creator of the SweepEase brush line. And how you doing today, Lee?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing great. Lovely Arizona weather. Is to be hopefully under 104 today, but other than that, it's clear and no smoky fires like California's got, so I'm happy.
Yeah, we're, I guess one of the new things is the new slogan for our state is the cold state instead of the sunshine state, so.
Smoky Mountains, I think I'd call it. Yeah.
So you want to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little bit about your background in the pool industry?
Sure. My name is Lee Lyons, and the pool industry is a peculiar way of how I got into it because I had pools. And I guess this kind of opens the door as to why SweepEase Stingray pool brushes are on the market now. And, you know, you get kids and the pool's dirty and you get out there with a regular brush and, you know, Dave, it was so awkward. You push it and you had to hold it to the wall and it would hop, it would skip. You get through and you go, it's just not clean. And, you know, I've had a funny career. I have had multiple careers in, you know, since I was a kid, from being a disc jockey to being a structural steel designer to, you know, general contracting to sales, you know, in all different fields and whatnot. But I was actually pushing the brush one day, and I thought to myself, you know, if we could put just like a radius on here, kind of like a spoiler on the back of a sports car, it would apply pressure, and I wouldn't have to cumbersomely grab my left hand and apply that pressure. And so that started the quest. And the quest started off with literally a piece of PVC pipe cut into 4 pieces, and it created a radius, kind of like a spoiler, if you will. And we worked on it, and we found that, you know, sure, it applies forward pressure, but boy, it's so hard to pull back. And then it sat there for a few years, and then I got a helicopter rating. Because I was the traffic guy up in the sky, you know, I-17 backed up from here to Hell's Half Acres. And so I worked on my pilot's license and realized that the principle of a main rotor on a helicopter is exactly what this is, which means you apply a force and it creates a lift or a drop. But how do you get it to retreat easily? And then when I looked at the main rotor blade, you know, it has the brunt force in the front and then it feathers off. Bingo, a light went up on my head. It was like a eureka moment. And I realized that same forward curve shape, if I reverse it at the right angle and the right length and the right this, that, and the other, it'll slice back through the water. Nobody had ever come up with a way to use a brush that created applied force in the forward motion, but easily pull back through water. And it was just a lucky thing. And then prototype after prototype after prototype later, we finally came up with a perfect shape, perfect length. And at one time we had it so long, it would, if you push from the low end of the pool and then drop into the deep end, it actually would lift off the surface. That's called ground effect in the aviation world. And so we shortened it and changed the angle and finally came up with the Goldilocks brush, which is what we have now. And it's the perfect amount of pressure. So every time you push with one hand, you know, applies 5 or 10 pounds of pressure. And then when you pull back, it slices back through the water. So that was the thing that I came up with. And when I realized I had something, I made these prototypes. Is when I sold my home. And ironically, I had the pool replastered when I first moved in, about the time I came up with my prototype. So I used my pool as an example there. And, you know, I've been sitting in the market. So I came over there, a little algae on the south wall. And I grabbed a, you know, standard old crappy brush and started to clean off this little bit of algae on the wall because I'd used my SweepEase brush for 4 or 5 years at that time. I got so frustrated. I just threw the brush down. I thought, this is nuts. How do people brush a pool so ineffectively? Got in my truck, drove 3 miles to my house, back to the house I was selling, and continued cleaning it, finished the yard, and it never dawned on me until I was driving home in the afternoon later in the day. You just drove 6 miles because you had to use your SweepEase pool brush because it was that much easier. I just laughed. So that's kind of the inception and creation as to the brush, but now you got to open up a whole new world. I've never been a professional pool cleaner except for my own properties. How do you get this thing to market? Well, that's a long journey. You
Yeah, and it's been a long journey, and it's been out for a while now on the market, and I think I was one of the first to review it for you. And I think for me, it's a unique brush for the industry for a number of reasons. Well, when I first used it, I almost fell in the pool. That's how powerful it was. I wasn't used to using it. So that's one of the unique things. But you mentioned, about using one hand only, and it is an amazing brush as far as the amount of force you need to use with it versus other brushes. And so can you go over, why is your brush so unique in the industry?
Sure. Well, first off, there's never been a brush like this in the industry. Now, there was one that came out called the Wall Whale, and I've seen that because I originally came up with this idea back in 1998. And then a few years later, I saw this thing called the Wall Whale, which was like this big kind of a snow shovel flapping thing. And I looked at it, I'm going, God, that's a brilliant marketing plan, but I'm an engineer. And I looked at this big, huge flap. I'm going, oh my gosh, the resistance through water is so intense. I can't imagine that they're going to sell. And it'd be so hard to push because the pressure would be so great. My analogy to that one. Okay, it's kind of like when you go to a dentist, you don't need a jackhammer to get your teeth cleaned. All you need is the modern convenience of ultrasound. And that's how I look at this brush. There's no moving parts. It's streamlined. You can go behind ladders on walls. It's easy to push. It's easy to pull back. It's very maneuverable and extraordinarily durable because we have high impact plastic on these brushes. And they're UHC protected as well. And I think I'm the only pool brush in the industry that absolutely guarantees it for 2 years, for material defects or workmanship. And I have to step back a little bit. The original brush I made back in 2011 was 100% polypropylene. And I wanted it all red, white, and blue and made in America. But the costs were absolutely exorbitant. To manufacture a brush means that I would have to retail a brush made in America, unfortunately, for $75. So you have to outsource it. So, it's unfortunate. In fact, we couldn't even find a company that would inject brushes into the plastic head. So, you have to outsource, and then you have to have quality control with companies because, they're working with numbers. The cheaper they make it, the more, they save money. So with an arm hammer, you get your manufacturer to do it the way you want. And we went through 12 revisions before I finally accepted the current one. And the current one has a absolutely strong formed aluminum handle that adheres to this polypropylene brush head, and it's like a rock. They don't break, and the only way they break them is people, I don't know, smack something, or run over it. But it took a few, trial and errors to make sure we got it to as durable as it is now. In fact, I've got one brush on the market that's cleaned well over 8,000 pools. We call the ugly stick. Which means it's so short. It's like it wore off 2 inches off each side. The bristles are 1/2 inch long, but it's still straight. It doesn't bow like a big back aluminum thing. So in answer to the question, what makes this brush unique? There's only one other potential competitor, but I don't really look at it as a competitor because the Wall Whale it has moving parts and it's cumbersome and it's awkward and extraordinarily hard to push. And you don't need that kind of pressure. All you need is that little 1 1/4 inch radius to apply just the amount to get in there, hit the walls, scrape off some sodium, some minerals, some calcium. And what that does for the pool industry is that if you use this brush and you use it on your pool every week, I can guarantee you when I sold my property 5 years later, you got to remember, I got the pool redone when I first moved in when I was doing these sample prototypes. There was not one person that didn't come by and look at that pool saying, dude, the pool looks awesome. Did you just get it redone? Yeah, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years ago. How do you do that? Well, I'm a fanatic for watching chemicals, and I brush it once a week. But when I brush it, I'm actually sweeping it and cleaning it every single stroke. So, for people in the pool industry that want to take pride in what they do, by golly, I've never seen a brush like this anywhere in the world that can do what this does. So to me, it's a no-brainer, but it's an education process. Everybody's used to using their XYZ brush, but then when they get used to this one, you have to remember, use one hand, don't use two. It slices back through the water, and then look at the results after a few months. Because you finally cleaned it. What does that mean? The pool will stop aging. Why? Because the sodium, the minerals, the calcium that adheres to the plaster, Pebble Tec, or even vinyl, has been swept away finally for the first time in its life.
Yeah, and I think for me as a pool guy, I really hate brushing a pool. To me, it's one of the things that I really hate doing. And before the SweepEase brush, it was a real pain because I use other brushes and tried different sizes. I tried the gigantic A&B brush one time for a while, and just found that brushing was just one of those things where it was a chore to do. But of course, with the SweepEase brush, it's so easy to do that it's one of those things where a lot of pool guys neglect brushing because of that reason, I think, because it's a lot of effort. And this, of course, it doesn't look like it would do much just by looking at the picture of it or design of it. But when you actually use one of these things, and they're so affordable to pick up, I suggest anyone who hasn't tried one yet to grab one. It's an amazing brush because it makes brushing not a chore anymore.
Well, I'm right. We're two chefs talking about the great dish we made. I thoroughly agree with that. And I've done shows all over the United States and talked to thousands and thousands of either retail store owners or a lot of service guys. And you have different approaches to the service industry. And you get out there and you sweep your 20, 30 to, I know guys that have swept as many as they claim 150 pools a week. Oh my God, that's got to be monotonous. But when all of a sudden you've got something that eliminates the cumbersomeness, if you just go to poolbrush.com or SweepEase.com and you see these guys on that 60-second video, that's not scripted. Everybody that was doing their different perspectives on this brush, they're just ad-libbing. And when you see that and you understand this little 1 1/4 inch radius applies that just the right amount of pressure, it saves you time. And most importantly, your customers are happy. Why? Their pool looks damn good. And after a period of time, it won't age as dramatically because every time you push it, you're cleaning. You're not going through the motions. You're never hop, skipping, or jumping, which any other brush on the planet does because it doesn't have that downward force. And speaking of that, Dave, a lot of brushes have that, how they, like the A&B, they got the big long aluminum little bar across the top of it. I think that's what the A&B brush has, right?
Yeah. Those break all the time.
Exactly. And I've talked to guys at the shows saying, well, what brush do you use? Oh, I use A&B. I said, does that break? All the time. Well, what if you could use a brush that's guaranteed not to break for 2 years? Guaranteed. Now, if you're in the service industry, I've seen enough brushes come and go that I can tell if it was abused. But if you're a service guy and this brush breaks with you in regular service work, I would honor it. Okay. If you abused it and left it in the sun and, let the dog eat it or whatever, no. But if you do and you show me receipts on that, I'll send you a free brush. That's how we work. And we even give you the extra V-clip because that's one thing that I think is kind of cool. You take your little V-clip and you take your finger and your thumb and you push it together and slide off the pole. Well, this has a really handy little thumb approach. You just push down, it pulls in the spring loaded and, pulls it right off the pole. So it's quick, fast, and easy. Give you a free extra one in every single purchase, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I like that V-clip. It's kind of unique. I that's something that we didn't talk about too much, but unlike the standard V-clip, it's a small, short, kind of like a condensed buff version of it that easily, again, you can push with one hand. And I find that before I break a brush, I break the V-clip because if I hit the step wrong or do something wrong while I'm brushing, again, the durability of the brush, unlike the A&B brushes, which will crack that frame, and the V-clip will be fine. With your brush, I've hit it so hard on accident, of course, where I
Sure.
actually snapped the V-clip off, which happens out there where you're servicing. You can't be 100% careful all the time. And so the brush doesn't break, but the V-clip has snapped on me. So the fact you have extra ones, and I like the way it goes on your pole. And you want to just go over that real quick in a little more detail?
Sure. What it is it's you have a standard V-clip. Now, if you're in the field and by chance this particular brush that has this thumb action, what it does, it's got a V shape, and then just above the pole where it attaches to the head of the brush, you just take your thumb and push it down. And in pushing it down, we've got this little V section in it that pulls the Y in, and you pull the pole off, let it go, and then slide the pole back on. If you want to push it down again, just slap it and click it. Bada boom, bada bing. And this is a weakness in all brushes. So just as a side note, for you guys that have the SweepEase Stingrays out there, if it breaks in the field, you can use a regular V-clip. Now, I got to guarantee you, it looks ugly. And it sticks up like a sore thumb, but it holds it in place, and so you can either put a screw through it or get the proper clip. Now, here's what I've done for the proper clip. If you go to the website, on the bottom of every single page, it says V-clip, a little picture of it. You click on that, and I sell 3 for 99 cents. I don't make money on those. That strictly is a convenience factor for you guys, because, it's frustrating. If you tell me you're a pool guy and send me a little note or something, I'll throw 2 packs in there because they're so affordable for me to purchase that, I will do that. But you just got to let me know. But 3 for 99 cents, come on, that's a smoking deal. And that's just a little courtesy I think is really important in the industry.
I think so. I think that's great because you don't get that from a lot of manufacturers. And that's one of the things that sets you apart is that you'll warranty it for the pool guy under the circumstance he's not abusing it. And then you'll give him the V-clip for 3 for 99 cents, which is a great deal. And they do last long. I said I broke it, an accident. They're very long lasting. They're durable. It's not like you're going to wear out in a week or two.
No.
I think I just broke mine a week ago, and I've been using the same brush for 6 months. So it's just one of those things that I really like the fast, the way you can really clip it on the brush, take it off. And you want to go over the 3 different models of brushes that you have and
Sure.
what each one should be used for. Now, just before you go over that, I got to say one thing that we didn't talk about is how easy it is to brush algae off a pool with your brushes without using, the 6-inch steel A and B brush, which, can be very tiresome. And it does a great job with algae also. But you want to go over the 3 different brushes that you manufacture?
Sure. And let's just start with the Algaezilla brush. And the reason we'll start with that one is that we can put an exclusive on that. There's not a brush in the world, excluding the SweepEase Algaezilla, that actually applies pressure every time you push it. And the convenience factor of 10 inches, if you really want to drag it back, and you're 20 feet out there, you put this on your pole. And I don't care if your pole is 30 feet long. If you put that Algaezilla on the end of that pole, you pull back and you push it really hard, you'll put 5 to 10 pounds of pressure on that head. It just slams down and removes whatever you've got. Now, with that being said, it applies pressure forward. You could drag it back to get the back flow to scrape it like you're used to doing with any other brush. This brush is really not designed to clean on the pull motion. It's always designed for the front motion. So if you got a hard spot, you pull it back 6 inches, you give it a quick shove, and I don't care if it's 15 or 20 feet away. It comes slamming down into that wall and removes whatever is there. Now, I don't recommend you sit there for an hour doing this because it is powerful enough you could actually remove the finish. But it is, it's strong, it's durable, 100% stainless steel brushes, and a 10-inch brush. And if you look really carefully on it, David, you'll see that the radius on the front is actually bigger on the Algaezilla than it is on the standard Stingray brushes. And the reason I did that, it's smaller, so it exerts a little more pressure every time you push down. So that's that. And we don't use that all over the United States, especially in the East Coast, because, they got a lot of vinyl and fiberglass pools. That's specifically used for hard condition stuff on plaster or Pebble Tec. Now, let's look at the other 2 brushes. And I get a lot of commentary on this. Lee, which brush should I use on my Pebble Tec or plaster pool? Well, I have manufacturers that buy these brushes in quantities. And in a startup kit on a plaster pool, some of them give them a blended brush, which has stainless steel bristles matched into mostly 100% poly bristles. Now, would I recommend that on a freshly plastered pool? Off the top of my head, I'd say, I don't know about that. That seems a little stiff. But the reality is they work identically. the blended brush and the 100% poly brush works identical because it's the same force. Which one lasts longer? We've actually done tests on this. And I think, did you give me a brush at one time that had a bazillion pools cleaned on it? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did. I gave you one of the shows. I think I had it for 2 years.
Right.
And it was the poly stainless steel blended brush that I gave you.
And I think we've actually, then there was around 3,000 pools cleaned with that one. Is that what we calculated?
Yeah, or something like that, yeah.
So we actually did a comparison. Another person brought back one that had 5,000 pools cleaned on a stainless steel blended brush. And the other one had cleaned, which is 100% poly, had cleaned 3,000. And when I show them to customers, we call them the ugly sticks because they're shorter and the bristles are, obviously shorter. And, they're gnarly. They've been around for a while. They've cleaned a lot of pools. And when I hold them up, we realize that the bristles are the same length, even though the stainless steel one had 5,000 pools cleaned on it versus the polypropylene that had cleaned 3,000 pools. What does that mean? The stiffer bristle lasts longer. Now, in all reality, you guys are going to be going through these things probably one a year. And we're going to guess, David, that you're probably doing 30 to 40, 50 pulls a week as a guess. I'm guessing. I don't know. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on an average, I know guys here in Arizona, I know one who does as many as 155 pulls a week. His brush is toast after X amount of time. And I tell him, look, guys, it's an 18-inch brush. You're trying to clean a pool with a 16-inch brush now. Get a bigger lawnmower. Get in and out faster. You get bigger swipe every time you go through. And they laugh, But so you have the two options. I would not use the stainless steel blended brush ever on a fiberglass pool. But I do have people in the East Coast that have a bad situation with a vinyl pool, and they'll use that because it's not sharp enough to cut. It's just a stiffer bristle. So, people say, well, which one's better? They're the same. Which one lasts longer? We've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, especially on Pebble Tec pools, the stainless steel blend actually wears better. Mm-hmm. Does that kind of help you out there?
Yeah, I think that covers it, and I think it answers the question for someone who has a fiberglass pool. You definitely want to go with the 100% poly, and then Pebble Tec plaster pool, definitely get the stainless steel poly blend for longevity. And I think I'll speak for the pool guys. We're kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say we're cheapskates, but we're kind of like creatures of habit. So we have a brush, and it's getting old. We're kind of attached to it, and we don't really want to get rid of it. And I had the same thing. The only reason I replace my brushes, sometimes I'll lose them. I'll drop one somewhere, and then I'm just like, so mad at myself for losing a $25 brush, Yeah. But to replace them, we're kind of like, it still looks good to me. And that's just how we are out there. It's not the fact that we don't want to. It's just that we're so attached to our equipment. And I'll use a leaf rake until it falls apart, too. So it's just the nature of the business, I think, for us out there.
Yeah, and you probably still have that same first rock and roll concert you ever went to T-shirt that you wear with holes in it, huh? No, I know, especially in the service industry. I've met more people that are specific to brand, that they're brand loyal, and I respect that. And once they finally shift over and realize, you know what, guys, there is an easier, more efficient, more effective way to do your job, and in the long run, you're in and out quicker. And most importantly, this brush, because it's 100% contact every time you push it. You can't miss. It can't. I guarantee you, you get a brush that hops, skips, and jumps, I'll buy it back because it's impossible for it to do that. And the simple reason is the shape of the brush has even pressure, the full 18-inch width or 10-inch width. It cannot bend. And these brushes weigh under a pound. They're light, high-impact plastic. So obviously, I'm sold on it. I created it. It's my baby. I think it's the only brush in the world that should ever be used, for you, easeability, and the customer, because in the long run, the pools look better. One little side note, if you look at it, on the back of the brush, it has like a slice. I know we're not doing a live video here, but it has about a 45-degree cut on it. And the reason it does is so you can come all the way up to the coping above, just above the tile. So if you go at a 45-degree angle, down the walls, as long as you got, like 75% of that brush in the water, the other 25% is actually hitting the tile and cleaning the tile as well on a 45-degree angle going down the walls, and you can do it with one hand. So people forget, why is the brush shaped like that? And I go, well, that's because you got coping. You got to clean underneath it.
But why don't we tell listeners where they can actually purchase it. And you mentioned your website earlier. Go ahead and shout it out one more time for them.
Sure. SweepEase, SWEEP, SweepEase, EASE is one. We also have poolbrush.com. So if you forget how to spell SweepEase, you've got poolbrush.com. And when you go there, it gives a description of how we came up with the idea and what we've done to it and why it's shaped like that. And a lot of stores are on there as well. The one thing I will tell you, as far as if you're out in areas where you don't have access, HomeDepot.com only will sell them to you and ship directly to your house. HomeDepot.com and just /SweepEase and just spell it out. SEP does carry them in certain stores, but because SEP is a funny little place and they don't really sell anything and don't talk about new products, you have to ask for it. And they won't give you one at a time at SCP, unfortunately. That means that particular, they call them mini warehouses, will have to order one case to get one. Or you can order them through SCP by the case. They come 12 to a case on the polys, 12 to a case on the blend, and the algae only comes at 10 in a case. So if you can't get it through SCP, you can go to Amazon. They sell them one at a time all day long. And so it's in the e-commerce area. You got HomeDepot.com and you have Amazon and Ace Hardware. You can go to Ace Hardware stores, and if they don't have it in the store, you can order one, and they will get it for you at Ace Hardware stores as well. So whatever's convenient for you guys there. And then lots of mom and pop stores I have posted on the website. And you can go there, and if it's close to you, go on in there and say hi, pick up a brush. And I'm sure you'd be very pleased once you get it in your hands and start using it. So
yeah, well, thanks for that, Lee. Thanks for taking the time to go over your brush. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, it's been my pleasure. I want to thank you for giving me the time to come out and kind of give you the history and the crazy little stories of how it all came about and why I feel it is the only brush in the world to use when it comes to cleaning a pool. But you can find that out once you get out there and try it, and they're affordable.
Thank you. You can also find my video on the SweepEase pool brush by going to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, scrolling over to pool products, and scroll down to SweepEase, and you'll be able to see the videos I filmed for the SweepEase pool brushes. And if you're in the industry and you're looking to enhance your business, definitely check out my coaching program at poolguycoaching.com. A lot of great benefits for joining that program. Again, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Leslie's Pool Supplies has been do-it-yourselfers and pool trade professionals' trusted partner since 1963, providing quality products and services to make pool care easy and solutions and expertise to do it right.